Hello and welcome to Retrotainment episode 16. Missing this week is my co-host, capital C, capital O, Greg. I've given him the week off. I say I've given him the week off. The truth is that he wasn't invited into the King's Court, and therefore, had to, like, I wasn't going to turn down an invitation to the King's Court, so just told him, oh no, we weren't invited, and left him outside with the other peasants as I joined the king here.
Absolutely.
How are you doing, bud?
All good, my man. Great to finally be on the show, because it's a great old show, I must say.
Yeah, it's been great being able to go back and watch old film. Like, most of them are stuff I've watched previously anyway, but it's great going back and getting a chance to watch them again. Like, it's not something that you'd think to do a lot of the time,
Yeah, and I suppose you're looking at them with a different set of eyes as well sometimes.
Yeah, trying to kind of think, like, why would this be good? Why do I like this? Not just, did I like that, but why did I like it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's interesting, all right, yeah. I've been loving your shows as well. Obviously, part of the Dynamo podcast network, King Woe's Court.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's going really well. The numbers are good, which I must say. I mean, but the YouTube aspect of things seems to be lending itself very well to my podcast, anyway.
Yeah, I think being able to see how relaxed you are with your guests really comes across really nicely.
Yeah, because, like, just before COVID, people used to come into the court, and it was a great setup.
Yeah,
just to chill out, have a cup of tea or a beer, whatever you wanted, and just chatting. And as I say, it's usually musicians chatting to musicians, but it's easy going, and that's the way I do any podcast. If I'm on a podcast with you, I'm gonna just do the exact same, as in approach it the same.
Yeah, I think that's the best way. Like having people where they're just relaxed, they're not on edge about what's going to be asked of them and stuff. I think that is the best way. So
yeah, absolutely.
So it's always good to hear your stuff. Anyway, I really loved the recent one with Dara from Horrendous for Megadeth, because they're a band I had fallen out of, like, just not out of dislike or anything, just hadn't listened to them in so long.
Yeah,
and I've had them on repeat since.
Oh, brilliant! That's cool, because they're not a band that I particularly like.
Yeah, you did say that, but you were very fair, to be fair to them.
Well, that's it. I mean, look, if you're going to just do stuff you like all the time on your podcast, what's the point in doing it? You have to challenge yourself now and again.
Yeah, exactly.
And doing a review like that of Megadeth is a challenge for me, because, like, some of my best friends will tell you he hates them. But as I said on the podcast, I respect them.
I think you're very fair as well. Like, you didn't, like, you gave good albums a good rating, and you gave the bad albums, which there is some, like I'm not one of those people who'd be like, oh, they don't have a bad album. They do have bad albums, and you rated them poorly, but that's what you expect,
Absolutely. But sure, look, it was just a little veer off, a little change from chatting
the norm.
So just 2 or 3 different podcast concepts I have, and obviously with COVID I can't do 1 or 2 of them. So I'm trying to just kind of do as many, just to change things up a little bit. Yourself, you need to
keep things interesting.
Yeah, you need to vary things up a little bit.
But we decided to get you on for this film anyway, because this is your film, the biggest film.
I love this film so much. As I was saying, he's watching.
Yeah.
He is watching.
For anyone who doesn't know this film, it's obviously Predator. And if you don't know this film, seriously, where have you been?
I must know this film line for line now.
Yeah. But released in the 29th of January 1988. Strange time to kind of release a film. The end of January. It's not really the time you think of time to release a big film, especially with a guy like Arnie.
And an action film as well. I mean, it's literally just over Christmas. You don't expect it's usually summer for the blockbusters, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's why I was surprised when I seen that's when this was released. It's such an early time in the year to release it. But I suppose at that time Arnie was, always busy. So I suppose maybe you just had to release it when you got him, like.
Yeah. It worked out for the better, I think, anyway.
It did, yeah. I think because it didn't have anything else to go up against, it ended up doing quite well, because, as I said, 1988, 98.3 million at the box office.
Wow.
Which doesn't seem like much now, because you hear about, billions and stuff, but you're looking at 1983 again.
Back then it was.
Different price for a ticket,
Absolutely. And was that worldwide or was that just in the States?
I don't know. I looked that up and it's in dollars, so I'm assuming they just give me the States.
Well, maybe, I don't know. It could be worldwide, but they just do the thing in dollars.
Yeah, they could do. Yeah, I'm never really sure. So
yeah.
I always like to look up just the ratings for the films. Now I never judge a film off the ratings that I find, but I always think it's interesting to see what people have rated it. So out of 48 critics on Rotten Tomatoes, it got 81%, which I don't think is too far off.
Well, they can be quite critical.
Yeah, some of the stuff they criticize films for is stuff that I don't like. It's not what you should be criticizing it for. Like, I think when I did Mighty Ducks with Ian, like one of the main, like it got rated quite low by the critics, and their main argument was that it's very childish, and I'm like, yeah, but it's a children's film,
it's a kid's film, yeah.
You know, it's very formulaic. You know, oh, good guys get coached by somebody who doesn't like them, and you're like, yeah, but it's a children's film. Like, of course, it's formulaic. All children's stuff is formulaic. It's, you know, bad guy beats good guy builds up and then beats bad guy. You know, that's always the story. And you know, I don't want my children's films to change. Like, that's what I still expect from them. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, yeah, and in fairness, they named the film after a really crap NHL team, you know.
Well, no, they didn't. Because the NHL team came off the back of the film. The film was actually made first, which is
I'm kidding.
Which is one of the stranger things that's happened.
There's a lot of history and legacy there, isn't it?
Well, I think it's probably one of the more interesting legacies, but I think that's for we'll leave ice hockey to the Flaming Puck. Give it a little cheap plug there.
Absolutely.
But audience score of 87%, which I don't think is too far off either. I mean,
yeah, I mean, like I would look at the audience score before I look.
Yeah, that's what I would tend to look at. But this one being quite close, that's always good to see.
Yeah, it's consistent. Yeah, it's consistent.
Yeah, which isn't always the case now.
I think if anything gets over 80%, then that's a good sign that it's a good film.
I think so too, because a lot of the times what you're marking people down for is things that you're kind of nitpicking on.
Yeah.
So like something like this could be nitpicked that, you know, it's not full of action straight away, and some people would be like, oh, I don't like that, and then they'll mark it down because of that, you know.
And then of course in some areas it's classed as a kind of a horror thriller. Really.
Yeah, exactly. So, and some people seem to rate them down on things like graphical effects as well, and you're like, yeah, but it's from the 80s, lads. Like, it's, you know, what they had to work with then isn't what we have to work with now. You can't compare them, but it is what it is, I suppose. We'll get into the film though. I think it has a great start where we see obviously Dutch and Dylan, the big
Dylan,
the two big beefy arms.
Oh my God, it's such an iconic opening, and the music, which was made by Alan Silvestri, it's just iconic. Yeah. I actually bought the soundtrack of that film.
I think a lot of films from kind of that generation, the soundtracks were on point. Like,
yeah,
you don't get that too often anymore. Like Guardians of the Galaxy being kind of the exception. A lot of films now don't have a soundtrack that is just deadly. Like,
it's a lot of generic stuff nowadays, really.
Whereas back then, I think they put more money into the songs than they do now, because it's probably cheaper then as well. I suppose people had less record deals and stuff. So,
but as well as that, like, they seem to be using artists more rather than composers more so.
Yeah,
which I think it doesn't give like, you know yourself, the opening title from that film is as iconic as the film itself.
Yeah,
you know,
and it's the same as Star Wars. It's that
exactly.
You know, there's no song. It's just it's a composer with just a film score.
Exactly.
I think a lot of films could learn to go back to that.
Another great film that like, I could talk about films all day, by the way.
Yeah, so could I.
Another great film with a fantastic soundtrack is The Mission. Robert De Niro's in it. Oh my God! And that's another 80s film. But Ennio Morricone did the soundtrack for that, and it's spectacular.
Yeah, there's so many of them. The 80s was great for soundtracks, but this big scene where you see the two big beefy arms clasping up in a kind of a test of strength, I suppose.
Absolutely.
I can't see this scene now. I don't know if you were ever big into it, but there used to be a thing on YouTube called Ventrilo harassment.
What's that? No.
So Ventrilo used to be
What
how
was
people. So Ventrilo used to be this thing that people used to use to like communicate when they're playing games and stuff together. And there was this guy who was just really good at cracking into them.
All right.
Like he'd be able to hack into somebody's one, but all he'd ever do when he hacked in was play soundboards.
All right. Oh no, is that like
And he used this as one of them. The government got you pushing too many pencils, and he'd just keep playing the bit where it says pencils over and over again, then stop, and then play it again.
Oh, good lord! No,
Yeah.
I never. I got to check them out actually.
There's I think he mainly used Arnie because you know the one-liners are just so good from Arnie.
Well, I think I did actually. I think I heard one when he used it from Kindergarten Cop.
Yeah.
Who is your daddy and what does he do or something like that?
Yeah, there's he just uses Arnie soundboards. They're never just one film. He just takes everything and just rams it down people's throats.
I have actually heard him. Yeah.
But yeah, I can't see that scene because he always puts that image on the screen and he got muscled arms and pencils. But yeah, it's a great opening, like, and it introduces you to the two characters and it gives you that, you know, dynamic of that they know each other, but they don't particularly like each other either. Straight from the start, you get that. And then obviously they go into the jungle.
Yeah. What I like about this film is all the characters are larger than life.
They're all big boys, all right. Yeah.
In size and in personality.
Yeah.
You know? But what I like about it is they're all trying to outmuscle each other in their own way.
Yeah.
You know, but there's only one big dog, and that's Arnie.
Yeah, they all know who's really the big dog, but they still take their shots.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, like there was some big boys in that film.
Yeah, there wasn't too many small boys anyway.
No.
But they find that the body's all strung up, which is the first indication that there's something a bit different to this mission that they've been sent on.
Yeah, they think they're rescuing a cabinet minister or something like that.
Yeah, and then they find these bodies strung up by the like with all the flesh kind of taken off them.
Yeah.
And that's the first indication that you're like, well, that's a bit of a strange one now.
And in fairness, they did great with those bodies. Yeah. They looked spectacular.
It looked pretty gruesome, all right. Yeah.
I mean, Stan Winston did all the stuff on this, so like, I mean, he an amazing special effects guy.
Yeah.
One of the best. He was one of the best. I mean, he did the Predator as well himself.
Yeah.
He designed that, like, so.
And did a great job on that as well, to be fair to him. But Dylan keeps telling them that there's just 6 US soldiers after being shot down with the senator or whatever it is, and that's what they're looking for out here. But as the film progresses, we kind of see that that's seeming a little less and less.
There's an ulterior motive going on.
Yeah, there's a little less of that now. And they finally get to a camp after a while of insurgents of some sort.
Yeah.
And that
you see one of them executing
a US soldier or some sort, yeah. And that's when shit starts to go down. Arnie didn't like that.
I don't blame him.
No, you know, he considers that one of his buddies, you know. It's a great scene, and seeing Arnie pick up the
the truck that was power and everything.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you can see that in some films and be like, that's not realistic. But when you look at a guy like Arnie, you're like, yeah, he probably could do that. Like, look at the size of him.
I wouldn't like to say to him that he couldn't do it. You know what I mean?
See, I would, because I think he'd go out and prove to me that he could do it, and then I'd be like, well, I was wrong.
Yeah. If he told me that he had to head off 6 cows, I'd say, yeah, I believe you.
I wouldn't doubt that. To maintain the body mass he had, he was probably eating a ton of cows, all right. But they eventually learned that the story is fake after basically destroying that camp.
Yeah.
Dylan has to eventually
come clean.
Like okay, that's not what we're here for.
Well, I think when Arnie cops it, I think he looks like he's gonna beat the crap out of him, and then he kind of has to admit then what's going down. Yeah,
like Dylan's a big boy, but you know, when Arnie's telling you he's gonna beat the crap out of you, you're kind of like shaking in your boots. Oh, yeah. maybe. But while they're in the camp, they basically kill everyone bar one,
Anna.
They decide to keep her alive. I don't really know why they decide to keep her. Like, obviously they feel that there's some value. I think that their reasoning is that she can help them find the rest of the insurgents, but
Yeah, I think it wasn't a case of it that they had a hostage per se.
yeah,
Like you say, I think she could have probably given them a bit more information of the jungle, of who was attacking, or they, like you say, the plan that they had.
yeah.
So there's no even any real indication that she was a part of those insurgents per se.
No, but she was there, and she did try to attack Arnie from behind.
Yeah.
But after this, once we learn of Dylan being, a lying, cheating bastard, he tells Arnie that you might be the best at what you do, but what you are is an expendable asset.
And then Arnie says, "My men are not expendable."
Yeah, and until they later go on to be the Expendables.
And there's another one for you to do at some point.
Yeah, well, a couple of years down the line, maybe.
Oh, but, yeah.
But it's again, we see the animosity between the two, like what Dylan views as, this is, and I kind of do get it, because Dylan has obviously climbed the ranks, because at one point he used to work and do the same thing as Arnie. Yeah. Dylan has now learned that, there's a bigger plan in play, and it's not just about get in and get out, which Arnie still hasn't, or Dutch, I suppose. Dutch has decided, like, that's never going to be the way for him. He's real boots to ground soldier, whereas other people have progressed up.
But it's like, what? It's like in any kind of big company or big business. Yeah. If someone rises the ranks, they do change,
Yeah, they do, because they start looking at things in a different way, which is, when Dylan was with Arnie originally, he would never have thought of himself and the others as expendable assets.
Exactly.
But he's now risen up to a point where he's like, that's what they are. Like, we can send them in, they can do the job, and that'll get us sorted. So Dylan is a dick, like, there's no doubt about it. But like, I can see why he kind of went the way he did, because he did rise up in the ranks, and Arnie, or Dutch, never did. Dutch just stayed to what he was good at, I suppose, which was rescue missions, essentially.
Yeah. Now, actually, I remember now, it was Dylan who actually wanted Anna as a captive. Just for information and all that kind of stuff.
So it was never a hostage thing. It was always just we can get more information out of her. Yeah. She's not forthcoming with any information, because she's not she can't speak English. But
thankfully, Poncho speaks Spanish or whatever it is they're talking. But she's not very, giving with the information. Yeah.
Yeah. So they tie her up and decide it's time to start going. We've seen Predator a few times now up in the trees and stuff. Well, not seen him, I suppose, but seen
kind of silhouette.
The silhouette of something watching them, yeah. And something essentially hunting them.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool, I have to say.
And then we see, as they're walking along, they're about to go into a forest, but one of the guys just stops dead in front of them, and they just trust him.
Mac.
Yeah. Is it Mac that stops?
No, it's Billy. Sorry,
Billy stops, and Billy's just like, there's something in there, and they're all like, they're like, there's nothing there, Billy, and he's like, there's something, and it ain't a man.
Yeah.
I Billy is one of my favorite characters from this.
He was brilliant.
Like, he doesn't do a whole lot. Like, he doesn't do a whole lot in terms of like on screen, but he's just, the stuff he does so well. That like,
and another badass that you wouldn't mess with.
No, he didn't seem like you'd want to mess with him anyway. No. But he eventually overcomes whatever fear has overtaken him, and they've said like that he doesn't fear any man. So he eventually thinks, I must be going crazy, and they push on ahead, which turns out to be a bad decision.
Absolutely, but they're stuck in the middle of it. So what can they do?
Yeah, this is because they have to essentially make their way back to where a US plane can pick them up.
Yeah.
Or a US chopper, I suppose.
Yeah,
back. But they're making their way through the jungle to get to this chopper. So they have to go through here no matter what.
Oh.
And this is when we see Predator first attack, really.
Some attack, wasn't it?
Yeah, we don't really see too much of it. We just see
Hawkins getting squashed,
he's just
essentially. Mush.
destroyed, yeah, just gone. And Anna is left essentially covered in blood, just completely terrified.
And of course, you know, and we know why he didn't attack Anna was because she wasn't carrying a weapon.
Yeah, he only, you know, if you don't have a weapon, you're no threat to him, so he feels no reason to test you. But Dylan again not paying attention and lets Anna kind of run off, which is why this whole thing happens, because they have to chase her then into the jungle off a beaten path. Like Dylan he's just so useless in a lot of ways, isn't he? Like
he's lost his edge. He's lost his his instincts really well, for the most part anyway. He comes across as again a pencil pusher, you know.
Yeah, he has. That's what's happened. Like he's lost what, you know, that feeling on the back of your neck that you get when something's not right. He's lost that, whereas all the boys still have it, but he keeps pushing them on. Come on, let's go. It's a brutal attack, to be fair. Like as little as we see of it, and they can't find his body really.
Yeah, it's just as bits and pieces.
There's just bits and pieces, and then they eventually find
his dog tag.
His dog tag, and then a kind of mush that they're just like, I think that's his body.
Well, they couldn't make out.
Yeah, I think they just accepted like that. Okay, there's a mush of like something that looks human here. It must be him. Like
a mush of bad jokes.
Yeah, but it's like this is about 40 minutes in before we actually get a glimpse of him, Predator, which is I think is great, because as you said, some people kind of define this as slightly a horror, and I like that. I don't want not that I don't want, like sometimes a horror does work when you see the villain or whatever straight away. I think building that suspense is the best way to do it, like, because
like, let's be honest, I mean, there's nothing more terrifying than the human mind. Exactly, and what I mean by that is, if like whatever anyone can put in front of a camera for you, it's nothing compared to what you can imagine yourself. So that's the kind of horror I've always liked.
Yeah,
is less is more.
Yeah,
you know?
I also like that if I put myself into the situation of the characters. If you've seen the thing that you're attacking, at least you know what it is. Whereas if you know there's something there, but you still haven't seen it, and you're like, I just like, everyone's had it at some point in their life where, you know, they've gone to do something or they're walking home or something, and they just something doesn't feel right, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna, you know, you either continue on, and you know, sometimes, you know, it's just one of those feelings and nothing ever ends up happening. But there's loads of cases where people are like, I had a feeling something was wrong, so I rang this person or I did this, and it turns out that, you know,
and they can be just as scary as I say, if they push something in front of you on screen.
Yeah, but that's what I like, is that the characters, like, you still get the characters feeling that way, where they're like, oh, something's not right, but like, there's nothing wrong. Like, there's nothing wrong either. Like, there's no reason we shouldn't be going on, you know. And they're all big, tough men. Like, they're not like, oh, maybe no, maybe not. So, like,
but what I like as well is that it shows it from the Predator's aspect as well,
where he's
watching them and crafting stuff, and
you still don't see him. You just see kind of a blurry outline looking down on them. Yeah, which I think is great.
Or through his, like what he's through his eyes.
Oh, through the
the helmet on the
red laser sight and stuff. It's very good. Like, because now you know that something's hunting them, and it can see them when they can't see it. So it definitely builds up the tension of, okay, something's happening. But they set up a camp after this, and they start to hear a bit of a commotion, which turns out to just be it's just a boar, and the lads get a bit of stick after that now.
Mac was mutilating it to bits, wasn't he?
Yeah. Jesus, Mac, calm down there. But obviously that's not what Mac really heard. They just, in their head, it was there, but that's what they found.
Of course, I think we forgot about Blaine. Didn't Blaine die before Mac?
I think Blaine does, but is that after Mac attacks the boar and then Blaine gets attacked back at the encampment?
Yeah, you're right. Sorry, yeah, right. Yeah, that's right.
They all go down to see what Mac is up to, and they're giving him stick about attacking the boar. But that's Blaine has been injured and he's back at camp.
Yes, correct.
And Predator comes and
whisks him away.
Off. Finishes him off anyway. This is when we first see that the Predator can be hurt, because they see something go into the trees. So they fire every bullet they've got into the trees, and after a while they're just like, right, we have to have killed it. So they go in to check, and there's nothing there.
But of course, Anna sees a bit of blood, alien blood, on one of the leaves.
Yeah, now I wonder, because she sees that, right? Does she know what the alien, like? Do they know? Had they encountered the alien prior to this, and they kind of knew what it was?
I don't think so. I think
she kind of saw it and then kept quiet about it, which doesn't seem like a smart move, you know.
Well, the fact that he didn't kill her initially in our first meeting with him, probably not that she could. Obviously, she couldn't communicate with it, but the fact that it didn't kill her, maybe that's. I don't think that her group would have encountered the Predator first, because let's be honest, they wouldn't have been half as good fighters as Dutch's crew.
No, they wouldn't. But that's why we seen loads of other bodies strung up and stuff. So I don't know. Like maybe they had come across it, and she had, because she sees the blood, and you'd think, you know, right, there's obviously something here, and I found this blood. I should tell them. Yeah,
but she doesn't know them anything. That's the thing.
I know, but at the same time, they're probably the ones that are going to get you out of there safely if anyone is. So probably best to tell them, I suppose.
Tell them, yeah.
But she doesn't anyway, and they continue on. But we get to see the Predator take out the little kit. This is the first time we actually see the Predator.
Yeah.
Without the
decloaked.
Yeah, the decloaked Predator, because they've jammed his system or whatever.
Yeah.
And he has to take out the little vial and heal up his arm. Or is it his arm or his? Yeah, it's his arm. They've shot him in, isn't it?
Closes it together. He puts a bit of painkiller in it and then closes it together.
Yeah, that's what it is.
An ungodly scream.
Yeah, but they continue on, knowing that, you know, things aren't going too well, and they get radioed in that, you know, the chopper is on its way.
Yeah.
And that they have a certain amount of time to get there, or it's
not quick enough though.
No, it's not quick enough. Well, they still need to get to the rendezvous, I suppose, which is the problem.
Yeah.
But they start pushing on here, and then we get the famous line of "Mac, get to the chopper."
Get to the chopper.
But obviously that doesn't happen.
Poor old Mac's head gets mushed.
Yeah, just cleaned out.
Yeah, and you know, we forgot to talk about poor Billy's death that we didn't see on screen.
Oh, was Billy's before Max? It is.
Yeah.
Oh, it is, because as they're crossing over the little
the
kind of bridge, bridge tree, Billy decides that you know what, I'm not going to run. I'm not going to run anymore. So he throws his gun away, and takes out his knife and cuts open his chest.
Sword, yeah. I didn't see the point in that, although it must have been because it wasn't he a Native American or something, or Native Indian.
I think so, yeah.
Probably some sort of ceremonial thing.
Yeah, it was that. I was thinking it was either that, or he wasn't sure what drew the whatever was hunting them, because obviously they don't know. If he was like, maybe it gets drawn to blood, so he was like, I'll cut myself just to. Well, we don't see his death, but
you hear it though.
You definitely hear it. That's one of the most ungodly screams you ever hear. Which is not something you'd expect from a man like Billy.
I know.
He's normally quite silent and doesn't really say a whole lot. To hear that, you're like, whoa, must have been bad.
I can't imagine he had many reasons to yell like that before in his career.
No. Well, they always said, they said, you know, as we said, Arnie is the leader, but I think Billy was always considered kind of the killer of the group, like
the loose cannon. So
yeah, you wouldn't have been messing with him either. But yeah, they get across, and still Anna has no weapon, but she seems determined to pick one up.
Yeah, that's right.
Which she eventually does, much to her detriment.
Yeah. That's it.
And Mac unfortunately doesn't make it to.
So he's basically picking them off one by one.
Yeah.
Which is, and of course, as we know now, it's his version of sport.
Yeah, it's hunting.
It's hunting, and the way, I mean, it's brilliant the way it's stalking them all.
Yeah.
And and what I like about it is they've all had different types of deaths.
Yeah, no one's been the same. Yeah.
No, which is cool. It keeps it kind of,
Yeah, well, it'd be boring for him to do the same kill every time, I suppose. But obviously Mac is put down pretty quickly. And then we see Dylan decides that, maybe it's time to stop being a dick. And to actually, like, if I want to survive this, maybe I need to, get back to what the boys are all about. So he goes out to hunt.
So he goes after the predator because he sees him, doesn't he?
He does. He sees him.
That's, what, we're kind of intertwining here. He sees the predator and he tells Mac he wants to work with him.
Oh yeah, they want to loop around him. That's what it is. Yeah.
So Mac is trying to go and do whatever he's doing, and all of a sudden he's kind of looking up and you just see the 3 dots on his head.
Yeah.
So that's when he's gone, and the predator mimics Mac's voice.
Yeah.
To try and distract Dylan. That's where we're at now.
Yeah, and then Dylan does a good job, to be fair to him. Like he, until his arm gets taken off him.
That looked cool as well for the time.
Yeah, it looks great. Yeah, and then he's the one arm with the gun swinging around. Yeah. It's a great scene.
That's brilliant. So he kind of redeemed himself in the end.
He does, and I think that's kind of what always happens in these sort of situations, that he eventually, not the bad guy, but the kind of dick guy who used to be a good guy, redeems himself. But now is it Mac, or I think it is Mac that gets shot dead in the head, isn't it?
Yeah.
So his is the only skull that we see, because after he kills Dylan, we see that he's collecting the skulls,
trophies.
Takes the skull and the spine out, and the only one that's got a big crack in it is obviously Max.
Yeah.
Which is a bit strange to me, because if that's what, like, he could have killed Mac any other way, so it's kind of strange to me that he, the thing that he collects as a trophy is the thing that he damaged.
I know, yeah. Well, again, you see, as far as I can remember, it's also like a training exercise for these predators.
Yeah.
So he's obviously learning as he's going. That sounds gas, that he's learning as he's going.
Yeah. I don't know. That like, as we said, like, things get marked down, and when people are writing them, that's probably the one thing that I could see it getting marked down on, because it's kind of like they forgot what, like, they had that scene in mind where they're like, we'll have them holding up the skulls as trophies, but then they kind of forgot, oh, we actually had him shoot someone in the head a second ago.
Well, you see, here's the thing about here's the difference between films back then and we'll say now. There's serious attention to detail in good films nowadays.
Yeah, like when I first watched this, I didn't think that at all. But when I went back to rewatch it, I was kind of, as you said, you kind of look for what you do, what makes you enjoy it, and what kind of doesn't work anymore. And that is something I noticed. I was like, that's a bit weird. Like, why would he have done that? Like, and it's just a lack of forethought, I suppose, from
that's it.
the
But
directors.
they wanted that cool image of the, like all the guts and whatever.
The 3 dots.
The camera.
Yeah, I think they wanted that, but I don't know, it was just a bit of a strange one to do it in the head. Like, they could have just had him get shot somewhere else, but I suppose a kill shot is a headshot, so.
There you have it.
But so he's pretty much picked them all off now at this point. We're left down to just the main man.
Dutch,
Big Dutch.
Anna, and Poncho. And Poncho was injured. If you remember, he was injured.
Yeah.
So they're trying to carry him, and I think he tells them to go.
He says, "Listen, I'm just weighing you down."
Yeah.
Which,
much.
very similar to Billy in this sense, where he's just like, "I'll buy you some time."
Yeah, essentially, yeah, because he's screwed as it is. So
yeah, he knows he's not getting out, so they leave him with a weapon. Now, if they just took his weapons off him, well, I suppose he'll die there anyway, because how's he going to get out? But
why would you take his weapons off him though? That'd be just mean.
well, the Predator wouldn't attack him if he had no weapons.
No,
I suppose they don't know that, but
the fact that you had weapons, because I'd say that the Predator knew
who had and hadn't had them. I suppose, yeah. But they leave him behind, which it's. Some people would kind of say that's a bit of a dick thing to do, but at the same time, you're running for your life. You can't carry somebody, a big guy like that, the whole way.
Exactly.
And he knows it himself. He said, like, I'm not getting through this. Like, even if you get me back there, I won't survive.
So that's what they did. They left him there, but it was a case of he was buying them some more time.
Yeah. So it's just down to Anna and Dutch here.
The main man.
The big man. So he tries to buy her some time by kind of separating away from her a little bit.
Yeah.
And hunting. Which doesn't really go all that well for him.
No.
At the start.
But then he kind of falls into a little weapon, doesn't he, really? When he falls and hits into the mud.
Yeah, and that's what I like. It's pure luck, because it's not something he thought about. It was just
because the thing it's coming after him slowly but surely.
He's in like the river sort of thing.
Thing, yeah.
And he like crawls out of it into the mud.
It's a mud bank, and he's just there, and the thing is coming right up to him, but it doesn't notice him because he's covered in mud.
So. And it then sees a movement of like a rabbit or something in the jungle, and it goes off and kills that.
Yeah.
And then he goes, okay, it can't see me when I'm covered in mud, so
then he goes off crafting some really basic weapons, basic but effective.
I mean, some of them are basic, some of them are less than basic. Like one of them is literally just a huge tree.
I know, that was brilliant.
Like how did he manage that? I mean, he's a big guy, but how did he manage that all on his own?
I know. Well, again, would you say it to Arnie?
Exactly. Yeah, well, I suppose I wouldn't be saying it to him, but it is like that's his main weapon, and then the other ones are like, as you say, kind of rudimentary. Like we'll put some sticks on the ground and cover them with stuff in the hope that he falls into them and things like that.
He also furnished together a bow and arrow type thing.
Yeah.
With explosives on it or something.
Yeah, he uses the bullets that he has left to.
That's it.
To make the bow and arrows, which is very inventive, to be fair to him. I don't know if it'd work in real life, but it's a cool visual.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he's now on the hunt, and the Predator seems to have lost his because he jumped into the water. He's lost both his focus and he's lost the cloaking device.
That's right. Yeah.
Because the water has like fried it or something.
But it's that stage then, of course, where the mud washes off Dutch.
Eventually washes off him. Yeah, he gets a few shots in with the bow and arrow beforehand.
Yeah.
And swings around, but eventually falls into another pool of water.
Yeah, and then I think this is the only film where you see Arnie getting the snot kicked out of him.
Yeah, and it makes sense,
It's a
hunting machine. Now the scene that we have, like that I have in my background here, this is the one scene that I didn't really understand, because he has Arnie there, right, and he's pinned him up against the tree.
Right.
He's ready to kill him. He's won the battle, but then for some reason he takes off his own mask. That I know what they wanted. I know they wanted to get the mask off the Predator to show what the Predator's face is like. I know that's what they wanted, but it just doesn't make sense. Why?
You see, you got to remember, this is an alien species that no one is meant to know about. What I took from that scene was that he wanted to face Dutch in hand-to-hand combat without any enhancements, and he wanted to see his prize, I suppose you could say, through his own eyes and rather than through the helmet.
Yeah, I don't know. It just felt like this was something that they kind of glossed over a little bit.
It was
because
a, it was a cool.
it's a cool visual, and I think that's what they were thinking of. They just wanted the visual.
Well, this whole film is about visuals, really.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where he has Dutch. He's beaten him in the fight, both hand to hand and in hunting and stuff. So he's beaten him. He's bested this man.
Mm.
Then he like checks his skull,
I love that bit.
which we know, like that's what he collects, right?
Yeah.
But there's no. There was no reason to me to why he would have decided, right? Well, I'll give him another chance.
Mm. Well, again, I mean, like
that's the one big gripe I really have with the film is that they had an idea in mind there, like we want to get the mask off him, and instead of having it like where he has Arnie pinned up like this, and Arnie somehow, like if Arnie had like hit an uppercut or something and knocks the mask off or something, it makes a bit more sense rather than him just letting Arnie go and taking the mask off. They had an idea that they wanted something done, and then just kind of shoehorned it in there.
Yeah, I mean that's one way of looking at it, but like I was saying, in my opinion, it's this predator trying to prove itself hunting, and it hand-to-hand combat, no enhancement, and he sees his opponent face to face or whatever. You know, that to me is the best kind of explanation for it.
It is a good explanation, to be fair, but it's something that I feel like kind of they could have given us a bit of something to get us to there, you know.
I don't think, now in fairness, in this film they were thinking ahead, and let's give a bit of context to this. Get the mask off, have them fight because there's a couple of minutes left in the film, you know.
Yeah, I think that, and that's what I mean. Like that's just all they had in their head there. Like we needed to get the mask off them at some point.
You got to remember, films in those, and especially action films, there wasn't an awful lot of character development, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. And see that's the thing. Like that's why, as I said, that's why I don't look at ratings, because people go back and rate them now. And like when I first watched this, I wouldn't have thought that. I would have just been like, oh yeah. But it's when I go back and look at it, and like if you're a critic, that is your job to go back and look at it with stuff like that. So you are trying to find these slight issues in it, I suppose.
Yeah.
But we see the hand-to-hand combat with no mask on, and he's getting the better of Dutch here again.
Well, he's a good 1.5 feet taller than him, so I would assume so.
Yeah, he's getting the better of him until he knocks Dutch down near one of his traps. The big boy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Jesus.
And this is where Dutch. And I like that it's not like, you know, just in Dutch's reach. Like it's real easy. Like, oh, he just knocked me here. Bam. It's like Dutch still has to maneuver himself to get there, and he eventually does. And this big log just comes, cleans him out. It's
kill.
It looks deadly, yeah.
Yeah.
And then obviously the film ends with the predator
self-destructing,
kind of laughing to himself. He's been bested.
Yeah.
And he just kind of laughs to himself, like, okay, this is a race worthy of, you know, or at least this one person in this race.
Person was, yeah. Exactly.
Maybe there's more of him. Like obviously he doesn't know. He's only met who he's met. But he blows himself up in a huge explosion.
Thankfully, Arnold gets away.
Yeah, Dutch gets away and gets to the chopper,
and that's it.
Yeah, and we just see him kind of flying off. It's a fantastic film, and as you said, like visually very pleasing, and it's not like, it's the right kind of dark at times as well. Like you know, it's not like really bright, because it shouldn't be really bright because they're in a jungle.
But there are times when in the, you know, kind of, I love films in, we'll say, in the jungle, because it's so colourful, so vibrant. So like there are moments when it's like the green inferno, as they say. Yeah. You know, so I love that kind of, and then, you know, like you do see it in night time and all that, but it's not all kind of just dark. There's, as I say, they're fighting this thing in the daytime as well.
Yeah, but what I noticed is that it's normally quite green. Like you see those green, like bright sort of green colors when they tend to have the upper hand, or when they feel like they have the upper hand. And then when it's going badly for them, it flips to being dark, which is a great little effect, you know, because
absolutely
it shifts you as a viewer. It shifts your thought process, like even without you realizing, it shifts your thought of like, oh, things are going badly here, because it goes well when it's bright and it goes badly when it's dark.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
it's a very smart little camera, not a camera trick, I suppose, but camera lighting. It's very smart.
Isn't it mad to think, well, in my opinion anyway, that the real star of the film was the Predator, when you think about it? When you think of the legacy that the character has now, with spin-offs and comics and figures, and it is a real pop icon.
It is, yeah. It became a franchise. Like,
Yeah.
I can't imagine when they made this film that the plan was ever to make a franchise. The plan was, let's get Arnie in and do a big action film, because Arnie's deadly for big action films where we give him a couple of one-liners.
Yeah.
Like
I mean,
that's what Arnie's best for. That's what I love him. Like, his one-liners. I don't want to see Arnie in some sort of acting masterclass ever.
no.
I don't ever want to see that from him. All I want is Arnie in a film where there's a couple of one-liners and, a lot of action scenes. That's what I want from Arnie.
Let's be honest. There's different types of film experiences.
Yeah.
And an Arnie film experience, you leave your brain at the door and you have a bit of fun.
Yeah.
That's all you want.
Oh yeah, I just want loads of fight scenes and big action stuff, and
loads of one-liners.
Then the one-liners, the little quips from him and from the other people around him. That's what I want when I go to see a film with him in it. Like, that's what I'm expecting, and when I get that, I'm happy.
I'm happy, exactly.
Yeah. But this is definitely one of his best. This and Terminator.
And now, do you prefer Terminator 1 or 2?
I'd say Terminator 2 is probably the better film. But I think the fact that you had to come up with the entire concept of Terminator for the first film.
You know something? I prefer Terminator 1. I just prefer the atmosphere. And it feels so 1980s.
It does, yeah. But I think if Terminator 1, if they hadn't managed to do that so well, obviously Terminator 2 wouldn't be as good as it is. I think what I like about Terminator 2 is that Sarah Connor has kind of grown into her own a bit.
Yeah, she's a badass in that one, isn't she?
In the first one, she's a bit like wishy-washy,
Yeah,
like,
which she soon changes around.
She does, and I think it works well in the first one to have her, like, she's just, because if you were just some random woman, or even man, I suppose, like, if you're just some random person and this Arnie comes walking at you, but he's actually a bloody robot, like, from the future, you're not going to have your wits about you all that much, are you?
No, absolutely. Nobody would. No.
So I think, like, it is fair that they did it that way, but I think Terminator 2 probably, as an overall film, is probably better. But if Terminator 1 hadn't been as good as it is, you wouldn't be able to go to where Terminator 2 went.
Yeah. Here's maybe I'd say you'll be able to answer this for me. Who's the only actor to have been killed by an alien, a predator, and a Terminator?
Oh, I'm trying to think. Is it in one of the first few Terminators, or is it late Terminator?
Okay, I'll tell you the films that he's in. Right, he got killed in Terminator 2. No, sorry, Terminator 1. He got killed in Predator 2. And in, I think it was Aliens or Alien 3. Aliens.
Jeez, that is a tough one now. It's not a main character in any of them. So I'm thinking Aliens, it's got to be... Jeez, I have no idea, actually. I'm thinking, is it one of the maintenance guys from Aliens?
No.
No.
He's a Marine.
A Marine?
Yeah.
Jeez, I have no idea then. Who is it?
It's Bill Pullman. He was in Terminator 1, he was one of the punks at the very start.
Oh, yeah. All right. Okay.
In Predator 2, he was the kind of wisecracking cop with the hat.
I was actually thinking in Terminator it had to be a cop. I was like, but which one? I just didn't put them together.
So there you go. There's a little bit of useless information for you.
That's a bit of trivia knowledge there, isn't it?
Saddle when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, that everyone's got some useless trivia knowledge in their head somewhere, You just need to try and get the right people there when you're doing a table quiz, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, now you know if you need me for a
Yeah.
table quiz.
Yeah. Well, if there's going to be a question on that, I now have that little bit of information in my head. But yeah, no, like as I said, this is one of the best Arnie films I think probably ever.
It's my favorite Arnie film, without a shadow of a doubt.
It's definitely up there. This, the Terminators, they're up there.
Conan the Barbarian as well.
Conan's quite good, yeah. It's I don't think it's on the level of these, but it's cheesier in a way.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll tell you one that I do like by Arnie, and it's super cheesy, and it is not like a generic Arnie flick. It's a Christmas one, Jingle All the Way.
Oh yeah.
It's not what you'd expect Arnie to be in, but he just does it so well. Like the whole thing is just, you know.
Well, funny when he put his hand to comedy, he did it well.
He did do it well as well, and that's why I like it, because it's a different side of him. It's not a particularly great film, but when he's Mr. Freeze in Batman.
Oh, eyes to see you.
Yeah, I love him in that, because it's just all one-liners. What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age. It's just it's one-liner Arnie stuff. Like, it's brilliant. The rest of the film's a bit all right, but like Arnie, mint.
Yeah, ice cold, ice cool.
He is. He's colder than a block of ice, that guy. But no, it was great to have you on, Carl, and it was great to rewatch this film.
Absolutely, I love the show, man. Keep it going.
Yeah, well, that's the hope. That's the hope.
Absolutely.
What do you have coming up now for yourself?
This week I will be podcasting with a band called the Dystopian Project, who are a Dublin band.
Oh, very nice.
They're very, very, very good musicians, but they've had a lot of ups and downs. So I might get without getting too controversial, I'll try and get a bit of a good old story out of them, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, musicians always, a lot of musicians have ups and downs, I suppose.
Yeah,
and a part and parcel of the business, isn't it?
Absolutely, and funny enough, they just released a new EP, so we'll be talking about that and whatever else they want to talk about. I like leaving kind of what they want to talk about up to them.
Yeah. Let it flow naturally, I suppose.
Just a bit of freedom for them, man. So
yeah, and that'll be released on the Dynamo Podcast Network YouTube on Monday.
Every Monday is Metal Monday on
Metal
the DPN.
Monday. Yeah,
you coined that, didn't you?
I think I did. Yeah, I don't know when I came up with it, but I don't know if I seen it one day or if I was just putting hashtags in on Twitter for you, and I was like, "Oh, Metal Monday works."
Well, I have to. Can I just say one thing before we sign off?
Yeah.
Ted, you're the MVP of the DPN, and don't ever forget that. I'll tell you that now, because you're the one who always, helps us all with our shows. So fair play to you.
We all put the work in,
Yeah, well,
we all got to support each other.
Means a lot, brother.
It means a lot from everybody. But it's been great having you on, and it's a great film. No wonder it's your favorite.
Check it out.
Pick up little Arnie there. Let him have a little look-see as we sign off.
Get on the chopper.
You got out safe, lads. No worries to him. But that's it for this week. So good luck. Well, it's time for that part of the show that you all love, the advertisements for our sponsors. I know. None of us really like listening to these, but the truth is that we wouldn't be able to bring you this content without them. So let's just get down to it. First off, Wrestling Mania, the top floor of Stephen's Green Shopping Centre. Really good shop for all of your wrestling needs, whether that's DVDs, title belts, pop figurines, other collectibles, T-shirts, and if you like boxing and MMA, he has stuff there for you too. If he doesn't have something that you want, you can ask him. He'll order it in. No problems. Really nice guy, the owner of this shop. So get on down to Wrestling Mania on the top floor of Stephen's Green Shopping Centre. Oh, what's that? A pandemic? Well, that doesn't mean he's closed. Catch him on Facebook. Just send him a message. He'll sort you out. No problems asked. And our other sponsor, Peter Hart Graphics. Now, this guy has done most of, if not all of the graphics for the Dynamo's podcast network. Really good stuff, guys. Seriously, this is top quality stuff, and he doesn't charge a bomb for it, which is the greatest part. If you need any sort of graphic designed, it's peterhartgraphics@gmail.com. That's Peter, Peter, Hart, Harte, graphics, graphics@gmail.com. This guy is the easiest person I've ever worked with when it comes to making a graphic. You give him your ideas, he'll come back with something similar to what you wanted. And then if it might be exactly what you want, and if it's not, he is so open to criticism and tweaks, and he'll be back to you as soon as you give him what you want updated on that. This is easy stuff to get done. But actually, if you try to do it yourself, you'd realize just how difficult it is to make it look smooth and clean. Not a problem with Peter Hart Graphics. Check out his stuff on his Facebook page, Peter Hart Graphics.